Yeah. Oh. Refresh. She's there. Yeah. Huh? Oh, okay. Oh, I thought her. So I was also busy on WhatsApp. So you called me and I was going to you. Phone?
I see, yeah, now I can see you.
Yeah.
Now you're on.
We don't have one. Excellent. I think you're my friend. I think you're my very good friend. Oh, but it's fine.
Good evening, honorable ministers, good evening, members of the press. Thank you for your patience. We are starting a bit late today, but we are ready to roll. I will hand you over to the Chief Secretary, to the President and Cabinet, Dr. Silvester.
Thank you, Mr. President. As usual, I welcome you sincerely and heavily to this which has become a regular briefing after our cabinet today was the 13th meeting decision matrix, which is going to be presented by the chair of the interministerial briefing team. Let me refer you now to the chair to take us through what was decided today.
Thank you very much, Chief Secretary. Thank you, Permanent Secretary. First of all, I want to appreciate my colleagues, ministers who are here. With the Minister of ICT, Minister Mujenta Muswele, right there, under the President. Honorable SB Moyo, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, and Minister of Environment, Tourism, right behind me there, and Minister of Industry and Commerce. Have I left any minister? They are there to answer your questions. I want to welcome you again to this 13th meeting decision matrix. Cabinet received and adopted a report on the national preparedness and response to the COVID-19 outbreak. This report was presented by Honorable KCD Mohadi, who is the chairman of the ad hoc interministerial task force on COVID-19. Cabinet was informed that as of 27th April 2020, a cumulative total of 6,935 COVID-19 tests have been carried out. Of these tests, 31 were confirmed positive cases, inclusive of 5 recoveries and 4 deaths. In order to reach the testing target, the joint testing teams will immediately conduct tests in all the provinces, utilizing the following phased approach. Phase 1, which will initially focus on Harare and Bulawayo, will test the following: security personnel and their families, all medical staff and patients at all our central hospitals, all returning residents from abroad in designated mandatory quarantine facilities, all contacts of confirmed cases, regardless of showing symptoms of the disease, all the community around a cluster of cases, immigration officials at Robert Mugabe Airport, at JM Congo Airport and Victoria Falls International Airport, and also Bay Bridge border posts. Drivers at truck stops also are part of the group which will be, for that category, which will be tested. All cases fitting the case definition of COVID-19, they will all be tested under phase 1. Under phase 2, which will entail the expansion of sample collection and testing to all categories under phase 1 across all provinces and districts. Further measures taken include the following: disbursement of treasury disbursement by treasury of 100 million Zimbabwe dollars towards the mopping of up to, sorry, I'll take that again. So further measures taken include the following: disbursement of treasury of 100 million Zimbabwe dollars towards the mopping up of all available local PPE stock. Then there is identification by the Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development of strategic truck stops along the country's regional corridors to be designated by way of Government Gazette as SADC transit truck stops for use by regional transit traffic when traversing Zimbabwe during the COVID-19 pandemic. Then the setting up of isolation facilities at Roa Training Center and Vuti High School for those entering the country using the Forbes border post and Kariba and Chirundu border post respectively. Then the drilling of 13 boreholes at priority centers identified by Ministers of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, including 1 at Wilkins Hospital and 2 at Beatrice Road Infectious Diseases Hospital, and disbursement by Treasury of 667 million Zimbabwe dollars of the budgeted 758 million Zimbabwe dollars towards the fight against this COVID-19 pandemic. In view of the foregoing, Cabinet resolved as follows: A, that the screening and testing exercise involving the use of health testing units, both the rapid test and PCR test, be scaled up. B, that the proposed truck stops be gazetted in terms of statutory instrument 93/2020. C, that His Excellency the President will consider the promulgation of presidential regulations to give relief to both tenants and landlords during the lockdown period. D, that both residential and commercial properties be afforded a moratorium on evictions in respect of applicable lease obligations due for the period from April to the end of the lockdown, including the payments of rentals due for those months. E, that any unpaid rentals due for the period from April to end of the lockdown be paid in equal installments after the declaration of the end of the lockdown period, together with the rental payments due to those months. F, that all rent deferrals shall be free of any interest charges or penalties of whatever nature. And G, that homeowners or landlords obliged to make repayments on their properties or any other property to which the rent deferrals apply shall be entitled in respect of their mortgage obligations to similar relief mutatis mutandis, which will apply to tenants as set out in sub-paragraphs above in respect of their mortgage obligations. His Excellency the President will present a COVID-19 economic recovery and stimulus package in due course. Then Cabinet also received the appreciated progress reports in the implementation of the 5th 100-day cycle priority projects, which the ministers presented. The meeting noted that most of the projects had been affected by the current COVID-19 lockdown measures. The minister to present first was the Minister of Environment, Climate, Tourism and Hospitality Industry. He informed Cabinet as follows: that development of the Kore Cultural Village was completed and was ready for commissioning. The second one is that the World of Wonders Service Excellence Training Program, which targeted 400 participants from 15 organizations, that one, the program is standing at 90%. Then that the construction of a one community curio shop at Mtarazi Falls in Nyanga was at 95% completion. He also reported that the construction of a land park at Motiriki Cow Recreation Park stood at 95% completion, and that the planting of 202,330 trees under the Tobacco Wood Energy Program was now at 80% completion. And finally, that the planting of 1,636,000 trees, which is going to be planted by chiefs, members of parliament, and senators under the Zimbabwe at 40 tree planting campaign, stood at 80% completion. That's the report from the Minister of Environment, Tourism, and Hospitality Industry. Then the Minister of Information, Communication Technology, Postal and Courier Services, Honorable Dr. Jen van Musquere, reported as follows. That the ICT labs were established at 17 schools countrywide out of the targeted 20. Training of teachers had only been conducted at one school called Limbe Primary School. He also reported that of the 5 higher tertiary learning institutions targeted for internet connection had only been completed at Hillside Teachers College in Blawayo, while fiber installations at Marymount Teachers had been completed. And that 6 of the targeted 9 shared base stations in Grenada, Harare, Rodin Mashingo, Masembura, Mashonaland Central, Loreto Mission, Silobela, Kosana, Victoria Falls, and Collenborn in Uganda were now on air. Regarding the connection of health centers to telemedicine platform, Cabinet noted that the Memorandum of Understanding between Zimbabwe and ITU had been signed. Telemedicine equipment had been procured from the United States of America, technicians had been trained and equipment installed at 16 clinics. Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Minister S.B. Moyo informed Cabinet as follows. On enhancing the country's image, His Excellency the President had hosted an interactive New Year reception for diplomats. The Minister held diplomatic briefings with all European ambassadors accredited to Zimbabwe, and the Deputy Minister held 5 interviews in South Africa to enhance the image of the country. Pertaining to re-engaging with the West, Cabinet was informed that the Ministry will continue to re-engage the European Union and USA until sanctions are totally removed. On developing and consolidating political and economic relations with selected countries in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, the following progress has been registered. That the Chinese State Chancellor and Foreign Minister had visited Zimbabwe in January 2020 on his 5-country tour of Africa and held discussions which sought to enhance bilateral relations between the two countries. And also that His Excellency the President had attended the inauguration of his Mozambican counterpart on 15th January 2020 and had held a sideline meeting to cement the strong relations that exist between the two countries. Also that he reported that His Excellency the President had attended the inauguration of the Namibian President on 21st March 2020. That the President had attended also the IU Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia from 9 to 10 February 2020, where the IU had made a blanket resolution calling for the lifting of illegal sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe. And that His Excellency, the President, had attended the 2nd session of Zimbabwe-Botswana Binational Commission in Gaborone in February 2020. The President and his Botswana counterparts had witnessed the signing of 1 agreement and 6 memoranda of understanding aimed at further strengthening economic cooperation between the two countries. And finally, that the Zimbabwe had successfully coordinated the hosting of the 6th session of the Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development Goals held in Victoria Falls from 24th to the 22nd February 2020. And that Zimbabwe was elected as the chair of the Bureau of African Regional Forum on Sustainable Development for the year 2020. That is the report which was given by Minister S.B. Moyo on the 5th cycle of 100 days package. Then the next report was given by the Minister of Industry and Commerce, Dr. Sekai Nzenza, and she reported as follows. that construction of intravenous infusion mixing plant facilities have been completed. Also, that 5 of the targeted 10 awareness campaigns to sensitize consumers on the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act were conducted, 2 in Harare, 2 in Marondera, and 1 in Chinoy. She reported that the creation of reserved sector database exercise was 60% complete. And finally, that the resuscitation of RHA tungsten was at an advanced stage, with construction of substation now complete, the 5.2 kilometers of the 6 kilometers KVA line having been constructed. And finally, Cabinet considered and approved a concept note on the National Development Strategy 2021-2025 NDS 2020. This is a successor to the Transitional Stabilization Program, TSP. This was presented by the Minister of Finance and Economic Development. Approval of the concept note paves way for the launch of the NDS 2025 development process. The NDS 2025, which commences soon after the expiry of TSP in December 2020, will run from 1st January 2021 to 31st December 2025. I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and Chair. Now it's time for questions from members of media. As usual, we'll give you 2 sessions, 4 questions in each session. So when starting the ball rolling, yes.
Thank you, Tapu Chambaka from SlyMedia TV. My first question is to the Minister of Health. We heard that there are plans to scale up testing, but there was a target that had been announced 2 weeks back to say by the end of April you wanted to achieve a figure of 40,000 people having been tested. 2 days before, we were below 10,000. What have been some of the challenges you've been facing? Because every day of the week in the past 3 weeks or so, we've been going to the State House, and many corporates have been coming on board, supplying testing kits and all the other things that have been said to be essential in the testing process. So what has been causing this delay? And by end of month, what is your new target? And then secondly, on the issue of drilling boreholes, is there a safe strategy, or we're just going around drilling everywhere and anywhere without checking what's happening with the water table? Because some experts have warned that going around drilling boreholes, whilst it's necessary to supply water for the different health facilities, it's also going to be something that we might turn to bite us back in future, because if we're not strategizing well, we might be affecting the water table.
Okay. Any other questioner? Yes, please.
It's our blessed unity. I want to get clarity on the rental. It's just simply deferring the rentals and then making people pay. Is that not going to increase the burden already, because most people are not even earning an income during this lockdown, and it would not prudent to actually just cancel the rental during this lockdown.
Okay. Any other offers? Yes, please.
My question goes to Govt. What mechanisms are going to be put in place to ensure that retailers maintain the prices as 25 March as promised? Because a survey that we did is showing that prices are still actually some of the prices are skyrocketing, while some have maintained their current price.
Okay. Last question, huh? Yes, please.
Class Mama from New Zealand. I just wanted to get an update from Minister Moyo on whether they've managed to establish how patient 27 got infected.
Okay. That's the end of session 1.
Question was number what?
27.
Okay, good. We'll follow this. Okay. Thank you very much for the good questions. This question is directed to you, Minister of Health. Welcome. We have not seen you. He wants to know what are the challenges which you have faced to achieve the target of 40,000 by the end of this month, and what is the new target? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. The most important thing is for us to be able to carry on testing. Now we've got the PPEs, which is what was the delay before. We could not just send our teams to go and collect samples without giving them adequate protection. So the number of samples which we're collecting was therefore reduced. However, we've put in place a system where we can be able to test at least 2,000 samples a day. The number of machines are available in Bulawayo and in Harare. So that's a good starting point. And at the same time, we've now come up with composite teams which will go out and be able to collect samples for PCR testing. They have been trained and they will continue training so that we can have as many samples as possible. That is the way to go. Now we have the PPEs and we have the samplers. The exercise should be easier. We got the capability to do 2,000 tests. So it should make life easy. We have to prepare. Now the PPEs arrived, they have been sent, distributed to all the centers, right around the provinces of Zimbabwe, and therefore the exercise should proceed with ease until if we hit another problem, then we will correct it and move on. Therefore our target, yes, was 40,000 is a target. We will just see how much we can be able to collect and get and move forward. We want to collect as much as possible, on a daily basis, and as we move forward. And as we also improve the number of testing centers, countrywide.
Thank you, Minister. And the next question was about drilling of boreholes. Where you're saying by drilling boreholes without strategizing, that might hold us in the future. It will affect our water table, but I'm sure the subcommittee of food and water sustainability in the task force is headed by the Honorable Professor Mabima, who is not around. But from the reports he's giving us, there is always a strategy in drilling these boreholes. The task force recognizes the fact that all our hospitals, clinics, need to have water in those facilities. The isolation centers, they need to have water in those centers, and they actually sending their professionals to do the cycling and make sure that where they're drilling, all the strategy is being put into place. So I am sure there is a lot of work which is being done before drilling is done. And we always have to take care of our future. That's important, and worry about what will happen in the future. And then I go to Blessed Emmanuel Day. Issue on the clarity of rentals. Simply, you feel like it will be prudent cancel those rentals during lockdown. Yes, we are very much concerned with the task force and the cabinet to make sure we're looking at all the issues which are affecting our people during this lockdown. And this is one of the issues. That's why our legal officers were given this task to look into this, and this is the report which they came out with. And also the design reported, the President, His Excellency, will consider that promulgation of presidential regulations to give relief to both tenants and renters, because we know both will be affected in one way or the other. So this is what I read here is what our legal advisors have come up with. Then I go further to the last question. Samuel, 263 chat. Honorable Dr. Zenza, this question is directed at you. What mechanisms to ensure that retailers adhere to the agreement on the size of this continuity?
Thank you, Honorable Mutangwa, and I want to thank the journalist for the question. We had a dialogue with the retailers. That roundtable meeting we had with them was quite historic, because it has not happened before, that we come to a common understanding that we are living under COVID-19 and that to continuously increase the prices was hurting the consumer. We came to an agreement. However, with all agreements, you don't always get compliance. We've done a survey, very recent. We've realized that some retailers have indeed gone back to the 25th of March prices. Others have not changed their prices at all. Others have continued to increase the price. So the aim now is to get together and continuously engage, because this agreement was done in good faith. And we are basically saying we are in all this journey of COVID-19 together. Let's also consider what the impact is on the consumer. And at times it is an uphill battle. But I'm believing that we are beginning to have some common understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Secretary General. Now, back to you to feedback for the second round.
Okay. Second and final round, we are using you. Huh?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Clarkson Museum. Yes, sorry about that. Yes, that's correct. This is directed to Minister of Health. He would like some explanation how the patient number 27 was impacted. Minister Moyo.
Yes, thank you very much for that inquiry. Definitely what I want to start by saying is that we deployed a team to go and do contact tracing in the village where patient number 27 lives, and at the same time we managed to find out that patient number 27 was living with a maid, and the maid also tested positive. And patient number 27's brother also tested positive. So while we were worried how she could report it, there are those who are mobile and being able to move around. Especially this way, we feel this might have come from. So we've combed the village where she lives and adjacent villages. So we are waiting to get more results with regards to what the status of all the people living within that village and the adjacent village, what the status is like. So we've done our bit, and we've managed to get that information, and we'll get more information. However, what this means is that is definitely a lot of there is local transmission. That's what it is. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
That finally brings us Secretary to the now second round.
Second round
Robert from SlyMedia. I just want to find out the total number of Zimbabweans that have lost their lives worldwide. You've just said a figure from United Kingdom. And then secondly, there are individuals and organizations that are also mobilizing resources for the fight against the spread of COVID-19. Are there any mechanisms from the government to trace those individuals and organizations if they donated goods in terms of maybe cash or materials reach the intended recipients? Because every now and then through social media we get notifications from these organizations and individuals, soliciting for money and materials. Is there any mechanism from the government now then to trace from those individuals and organizations? I might not, but maybe in the near future, but it's happening.
Okay. Any other offer? Yes, please.
Thank you. My question goes to the Minister of Industry. When the current Minister of Tourism was overseeing your department, we had these same issues of prices. Back then it was an issue to say don't price, three-tier pricing, this dialogue with industry, this dialogue with different players in the sector. But it never really brought much change. Here we are, catch-22 situation, where you've spoken and you said we had an agreement last week. But now, a week later, there is no change. Prices, like my colleague said, are actually continually going up. What then is the way forward if dialogue is not working? And then, on the issue of rentals, people are asking on the platform now, how are you going to enforce? Because today I might be renting somewhere, and tomorrow, when the lockdown is expired, I might leave. Won't there be chaos at our court? If what's the strategy you're going to use to ensure that if I am renting somewhere today and 3 months later the lockdown is done, if I move, how will that landlord also be able to get their money, and will we be able to handle the chaos at the court? Thank you.
Okay. Any other offer? Yes, please.
My name is Anna Chuban from Zimbabwean.com, and my question is for Minister of Foreign Affairs. Minister, my name is Anna Chuban from Zimbabwean.com, and my question is for Minister of Foreign Affairs. Minister, we have heard reports that some Zimbabweans who are being repatriated being released from quarantine centers before the 14-day period that was stipulated by government, like 3 to 1. What is the cause of this? And we also have heard that there are threats of xenophobia attacks in SA. And do you have any mechanisms to make sure that Zimbabweans who are in SA are safe for the period now? Thank you.
Okay. Any last one? No other ladies volunteer? Yes, it looks like Chair, we are done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. The first question was from Robert, and he wanted to know whether we have total number of Zimbabweans who succumb to COVID-19, and I will direct it to the Minister.
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, you are precisely right to say the numbers which have come up, and we in other countries, we do not have a specific census of how many are actually died as a result of this disease. But we are in the process of making that survey so that we can assess the impact to lives of this disease.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I think it's under that. All the organizations which are mobilizing resources towards COVID-19, I want to say in the task force, in the Interministerial Task Force, we have Honorable July Moore, who is actually the chairperson of the Resource Mobilization Committee. And they are working with all Zimbabwean business people, corporate companies, developmental partners, and as the donations are coming in, they are all registered and monitored, and if it's for medical, it goes to NATFAM, who will then distribute it to all the provinces and all the districts. So in terms of those who are mobilizing, if they are not coming through us, it will be very difficult. That's why I asked who are those. But as for those who are coming through the reverse mobilization, which is headed by Honorable Zimbabwean, he will be very happy to give him the list of all those who have donated and how what they have donated has been distributed to benefit the victims of this COVID-19. That is going on very well, and there is a very exhaustive list which details what they have donated, the monetary value to what they have donated, and how it has ended up being distributed, where did it go. That is clearly tabulated. And we will be happy to work with everybody. And as you have seen in the last month or so, President continues to actually himself personally accept the donation and appreciate Zimbabweans within and outside and all those corporate companies who have really come along with a good response to this COVID-19. Then we go to industry. Taku. I'm worried. He says, even before you were Minister of Industry, you were it is true that guidance doesn't seem to get us where we want to go to. What is next month for the way forward, Minister?
Thank you, Honorable Musango. Maybe I should ask my colleague, Honorable Ndongo, to be here, because he's my predecessor. So he went through just what you're asking. But let me say that we are living under COVID-19, a very unusual situation. And what is the impact? Prices continue to go up. Tenants cannot pay the rent. So to address these problems, we can't say we have the answer right there. But I would say we are able to come to the table and have a dialogue which is done in good faith. Regarding prices, as a government, we are listening. We are also listening to the challenges that are being faced by the retailers and the shopkeepers. They're talking about the challenges to do with the lack of raw materials, that they also need foreign currency. Be that as it may, we still need to talk and have a dialogue in good faith. You ask if there's going to be chaos at the court because tenants haven't paid rent. Maybe yes, maybe not. But I would say this is a question between the landlord and the tenants. And again, I would encourage good faith because we are living in difficult times of COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And I would like to just add that rentals, there always a lease agreement, and where there's an agreement, if somebody doesn't know what the government is trying to help in terms of paying some moratorium on both landlords and tenants, then it will not be chaos at courts. I think the courts will certainly deal with them as the issues which need a resolution. Anna Chibamo, newzimbabwe.com, Foreign Affairs Minister. She would like to know that why some Zimbabwean returnees are being released at the end of 8 days instead of the 21 days. I would also, I can handle that, but it's okay if it's coming to you. And then she referred to the xenophobia of South Africa, and she wanted to know what is actually doing to make sure that we make the lives of our Zimbabweans better and also safer.
Yeah, again, thank you for that particular question. The process of the process of movement of people from outside Zimbabwe back to Zimbabwe. Yes, when they are still outside Zimbabwe, they fall under foreign affairs. We are responsible for them. And then we cooperate with even cooperating partners like IOM and other organizations and so forth. And we move with the relevant assistance of the government, the government concerned. We move those Zimbabweans back to the point of entry into Zimbabwe. And we are aware that in terms of international law, this country cannot deny Zimbabwe who is coming back to this country. And therefore, from that perspective, they come in and they are received by the internal system. When they are received by the internal system, they then go into specific quarantine areas where they have to stay according to the medical rules and regulations. And that is the process which takes place at that place. Whatever happens, if someone then gets out of the process which has been prescribed to him, it is considered an offense. And that person must either be taken back, because that is considered going outside the system which has been prescribed to him, that he must remain for 21 days within the quarantine area. The issue of xenophobia in South Africa, we have not yet got any evidence of xenophobia, specific xenophobia, which was experienced before. But what I can assure you is that there are a lot of Zimbabweans, over 800, who have appealed to the embassy that they want to come back home. And the processes of their movement, some of them coming from the Cape province, some of them coming from from Durban, and then some of them, and then we are in the process of organizing whether we can get assistance to move, because South Africa is in stage 4 at the moment. How is getting into stage 4 on the 1st of May. And they were saying, is it possible to move Zimbabwe out of the Cape province and out of the KwaZulu-Natal? And that is one of the issues which we are discussing, so that the IOM would then take over from Govt up to the border with Zimbabwe. And then the system here would then take over.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think that the question about how the returnees are being handled is actually being handled by the Ministry of Health and Childcare, together with the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare, and also Immigration, which is the Home Affairs. But since we have got the Minister of Health, he will detail how they are handled and at what stage they are released and what happens in between. Minister of Health.
Thank you, Chairperson. The detention time remains 21 days. That's what it is. And how it's administered on day one of arrival at the detention center, tests are carried out. And then you stay for the next 7 days, and on day 8, they are subjected to further testing. If they are found negative, they are then released to go home and complete the 21 days in self-quarantine. That's like we were doing before. If they are found to be positive at day 8, they are sent to an isolation center. So that is the modus operandi regarding the 21 days. So it is 21 days broken down as I explained. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, colleague ministers, and thank you, Chief Secretary, and thank you all.